owes his freedom in part to the Northern California Injustice Project. Kitto on the legal legwork it takes to overturn an injustice.
Freeing a wrongfully convicted man takes a village and a lot of time. And much of the heavy lifting and boots on the ground work was done by law students and staff here at Santa Clara University through their Northern California Innocence Project.
I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Like you, be strong to hold the powers of the sun.
Listen to Pavarotti.
Can I be your superhero?
Hello, welcome to The Revealing. This is a Sunday night special of The Revealing. I'm your host, Pavarotti, here to discuss the Idaho 4 case, and this is the third installment in an ongoing series here on The Revealing known as the Innocence Project Bryan Kohberger. Now, across the country, there are many individuals working towards a common goal, and that is to free the wrongly convicted and prevent people from being wrongly convicted of crimes. Now, their goal, although many individuals across many different independent organizations, they all share a common goal. And what is that goal?
We work to free the innocent, prevent wrongful convictions, create fair and compassionate and equitable systems of justice for everyone.
Now, you may be asking yourself, in this day and age, with all the different law enforcement agencies, prosecution teams, and their advanced technology and forensic capabilities, why would there even be a need for individuals to work towards this common goal of keeping wrongly convicted people out of prison? And it's real simple.
Misapplied forensic science contributed to more than half of our wrongful conviction cases and nearly a quarter of all wrongful conviction cases since 1989. Over the years, DNA testing and advances in forensic science disciplines have revealed weaknesses in the scientific foundations of several methods that were once widely accepted by the criminal legal system and used to help secure earlier convictions. In these cases, forensic science practitioners provided misleading testimony that exaggerated the connection between the crime scene evidence and the person of interest, mischaracterized exculpatory results as inconclusive, or downplayed the limitations of the forensic science method they had used. On other occasions, practitioners have made mistakes when performing well-supported forensic methods in a laboratory, fabricated results in order to bolster the prosecution's case against an individual, or hidden exculpatory evidence.
Now, with my mission in this case here on YouTube, although it didn't start out this way, it has become increasingly an effort to ensure that an innocent person is not convicted of a crime they did not commit. Now, people ask me all the time, but Pavarotti, how can you be so sure about the innocence of Bryan Kohberger? And in this video, I'm going to give you the best evidence that I have for that through much research and investigating in this case and following the case. I believe this is the best example of why I feel like there is an injustice in progress in the case against Bryan Kohberger. And it is from the efforts of the law enforcement and the prosecution to continue to claim that Bryan Kohberger was at the scene of the crime, when all of the evidence that they've gathered is contrary to that fact. And we're going to focus in specifically on what I believe is the most egregious part of this case, and that is the misidentification of Bryan Kohberger's vehicle and the misapplication of the forensic data that would prove that it wasn't Bryan Kohberger's vehicle. We're going to go over all of the available evidence as it relates to sightings of suspect vehicle 1, the possible movements of Bryan Kohberger himself that evening, and the evidence that would prove that this was not Bryan Kohberger, and the fact that it is no longer in existence, not because of anything that Bryan Kohberger did, but because of either inadequacies or incompetency or straight up possible nefariousness by the agencies involved in this investigation. And by the end of this video, I hope to have convinced you in the nefariousness and the incompetencies that truly went on in this investigation. And people need to keep an open mind when watching this information because it is factual.
In two cities that are separated by a 5-mile highway, an abundance of things are evident to the naked eye. Traffic cams. At every major intersection, you can see them perched like fowl atop of the traffic lights. Their job, to capture video of every vehicle that passes through, to save the evidence of their existence. Then there are supplemental cameras attached to the businesses in town that, although are for use privately for the security of that business, they are available for the taking whenever their investigations call for their service. Finally, the supplemental services of cameras designed to capture footage for other purposes, such as a nationwide service designed to capture footage from practically every airport in the nation and images stored on their servers. What happened to all that footage in Moscow and Pullman during the time of the crime? Both the hours leading up to it and the hours preceding, it is the real question.
To Main Street, there's a 76 gas station. Now, I went in this gas station and asked them about surveillance. They said they gave it to authorities, but they didn't confirm with me whether they had surveillance that looks at the street there, because there's no street lights. So if you turn left, you're going up north into Moscow. There's traffic cams all over the place. Okay? If you turn here and then go south, you go all the way down to, and go east and get unnoticed on surveillance. Now, the mobile station claims around 3:45, they see a white car, and it seems like it was on White Avenue. Who knows where it was going, but it was at 3:45 a.m. Traffic cams that are on street lights. There's the Moscow police station. And you go down here, there's surveillance. There's surveillance. So the car would be noticed, unless none of the street cams work. And they're just there, they're just fake, or they're... What do you think? I'm sharing what I find, unless none of the street cams work. And they're just there, they're just fake, or they're not working, or something's wrong with them, or they didn't capture. I don't know, but you can't get onto 8 from the home without being noticed.
Now, we've all seen them all across Moscow, Idaho, much like Pullman, on almost every traffic light. There are highly sensitive traffic cams that should have caught suspect vehicle 1, whether it be Bryan Kohberger or any other possible assailant, leading to or from the crime scene in Moscow, Idaho. These would be verified proof of the existence and verification of whoever was driving these vehicles. But no images from any of these cameras were ever produced. And why? All that footage could easily prove or disprove the participation of Bryan Kohberger into the crimes on King Road. Yet we will never see the footage from any of the traffic cams in and around Moscow, Idaho. Why? The story we were told were those traffic cams would only capture images of vehicles that had committed an infraction. However, is it possible that law enforcement simply failed to preserve the video that was captured on those cameras? I guess at this point we will never know. But just one more thing that could have proved Bryan Kohberger's innocence that is nowhere in existence today. Now, the official record of the movements of suspect vehicle 1 that they claim to be Bryan Kohberger's starts in the probable cause affidavit originally that was issued to arrest Bryan Kohberger. And you can see investigators were given access to video footage on the Washington State University campus located in Pullman, Washington. A review of that video indicated that at approximately 2:44 a.m. on November the 13th, a white sedan, which was consistent with the description of the white Elantra known as Suspect Vehicle 1, was observed on WSU surveillance cameras traveling north on Southeast Nevada Street at Northeast Stadium Way. At approximately 2:53, a white sedan, which is consistent with the description of the white Elantra, known as Suspect Vehicle 1, was observed traveling southeast on Nevada Street in Pullman, Washington, towards SR 270. SR 270 connects Pullman, Washington to Moscow, Idaho. So this is the first confirmed sighting by video of what they claim to be Suspect Vehicle 1 that they claim to be Bryan Kohberger's. The next camera that has caught Suspect Vehicle 1, according to the state, is at a business known as Floyd Cannabis Shop on SR 270. In the state's self-authenticating records they plan to produce at trial, you'll see number 21 here states Floyd Cannabis Company surveillance video for November 13th. This footage is maintained by a business. The state may rely on video footage from November 13th, 2022 at around 3:02 a.m., showing a white sedan on State Route 270 between Pullman, Washington and Moscow, Idaho, approximately 1 hour before the homicides. So Floyd Cannabis Shop would be the next verified sighting the state plans to present at trial, and the next verified sighting that they've stated since the beginning of Suspect Vehicle 1 at 3:02 a.m. So now we know the state's original and current perception of the movements of Suspect Vehicle 1 that evening. But for other important reasons, we also must identify all of the vehicle camera footage they captured for the return trip the next morning. And you see at approximately 5:25, a white sedan, which is consistent with Suspect Vehicle 1, was observed on 5 cameras in Pullman, Washington. The first camera recorded the white sedan was located at 1300 Johnson Road in Pullman. The white sedan was observed traveling northbound on Johnson Road. Johnson Road leads directly back to West Palouse River Drive in Moscow, which intersects with Conestoga Drive. The white sedan was then observed turning north on Bishop Boulevard and northwest on SR 270. At approximately 5:27 a.m., the white Elantra was observed on cameras traveling northbound on Stadium Way at Nevada Street, Stadium Way at Grimes Way, Stadium Way at Wilson Road, and Stadium Way at Cougar Way. So let's identify all of the available camera footage that law enforcement had on Suspect Vehicle 1 from the time they say he left his apartment until he reaches at 3:02 a.m. Floyd's Cannabis Shop on SR 270. So based on that, if right here on Stadium Way in Nevada Street was the last time that they caught, or the first time they caught Suspect Vehicle 1 on camera at 2:53 a.m., and then over here at Floyd Cannabis Shop, they have it on camera again at 3:02 a.m., well, that's 9 minutes in between this shot and this shot. When you apply a calculation to the route of travel the vehicle must have taken to make it between here and here in 9 minutes, there's only 2 possible routes of travel. One is to hit 270 and go straight across, which takes approximately 9 minutes, which would put him right here at the proper time. The other route would be to go by the airport this way, which is an estimated 11 minutes and would put him here at 3:04, but he could have been traveling a little faster to make it there by 3:02. There is no other routes from here to here that would allow this vehicle to get to this camera at the allotted time that the state is suggesting it did. Here is the problem. if the vehicle went directly across 270, it would have had to have passed the camera footage at Bishop Boulevard, and the state has not reported any camera footage of suspect vehicle 1 passing that camera. And we know that camera was working. Here are those 2 possible routes. One route is 6.8 miles, the other route 6.1, and the estimated time it would take to complete the journey. But if he was to take Northeast Stadium Way, again, it's already listed in the probable cause affidavit that the white sedan was observed turning north on Bishop Boulevard and northwest on SR 270 at 5:27 a.m. So this camera right here that caught suspect vehicle 1 the next morning coming in would have absolutely caught it going out, and it did not. So that eliminates this route as its possible route of travel, which only leaves the other route as a potential. So if suspect vehicle 1 had traveled this route, luckily camera footage at the Moscow Regional Airport would have clearly caught images of that vehicle as it took that route and was then caught on camera at Floyd Cannabis Shop. So this camera footage right here could either implicate or exculpate Bryan Kohberger as being the driver of suspect vehicle 1. Where is this camera footage right here? Because it's captured on a national site known as windy.com. As you can see on the map here, here's Pullman, here's Moscow, here's the route we're talking about. And right here at the airport is camera footage that is constantly taken by windy.com. So when you click on it, it gives you the camera view and it gives you an extended feed. And you can see the highway where vehicles would travel. And they give you many different views of the highway, as you can see right here. This is actually the one in Uniontown right here. But where is all of this footage that should be captured on these cameras? And then there's the return of suspect vehicle 1. Law enforcement claims that the last time the vehicle is sighted is when it pulls out at a rapid rate of speed right here through the King Road neighborhood and heads onto Walenta and then disappears from all of their evidence. Now, the next time that we hear anything about the movements of this vehicle is through their cast information. They assume the vehicle continued this way and then was picked up by CSLI data somewhere down here, somewhere right here around Genesee. And then they say the vehicle continued down and around and back up Uniontown, where it was next caught on camera up here in Johnson. Only footage they had leaving Moscow. Then they've got CSLI data that brings it down this way and is next seen on camera in Johnson the next morning. Now, because the vehicle traveled this way through Uniontown, according to law enforcement, how come there isn't any camera footage that caught this travel, especially considering the Uniontown aspect of it, of the highway? As you can see right here, this is actually the one in Uniontown right here. But where is all of this footage that should be captured on these cameras?
Now I want to switch gears over to what we were discussing as windy.com. What is that? What is Windy?
It's a website that is available for weather and such.
Okay. And why is that relevant in this case?
We were directed by it was Captain Corporal Payne that told me that we should look into windy.com.
And why is that?
Just to see if they retained video from the cameras themselves.
Okay, so windy.com has cameras.
They have screenshots. They basically capture the ITD cameras and put them on their website. those images are routinely purged from their site for the administration of that.
Okay. And can you explain to me, when are those, you talked about them being purged from their site? What's that schedule?
From going on their website yesterday, it's a public website, so I was able to go back to it. I don't remember exactly.
Can you explain why you didn't preserve those images from Wendy.com?
When it was discussed with other investigators, we wrote the volume gotten, I believe it was one image per day. Time frame wasn't where we were interested in, so we didn't capture that one. So
I don't have any further questions.
thank you. You reading that?
Yes, just a bit. You were just speaking with the prosecutor about the images from Wendy.com. And I thought you didn't preserve anything or go back and look at anything during your investigation. Did I misunderstand that?
So yesterday when I was directed by the prosecutor.
Okay, so yesterday the prosecutor said, go look for these things.
Yes.
But before that, you and other investigators decided not to. Did I get that right?
So the prosecution, the state, is claiming that Bryan Kohberger left his apartment, was caught on camera at Stadium Way and Nevada Street twice, then caught on camera at Floyd's Cannabis Shop, and then on the return trip, he wasn't caught on any cameras until he got just south of Pullman on Johnson. And the footage that could either prove or disprove this was not preserved from any of the traffic cams in Moscow for some reason, or they didn't capture the footage. And the video from Wendy.com at both the airport in Pullman and the airport in Uniontown was not preserved by the investigators. And then, for some reason, 3 cameras that would have caught the vehicle leaving out the way that the law enforcement says it did in Moscow, just south of the King Road neighborhood. And those 3 cameras would be Gypsy Java, Mundy's Machine, and Wasankari Construction, have magically all their footage just disappeared prior to 5 a.m. And then we're expected to believe the state's assertion that Bryan Kohberger left his apartment, went through the camera footage at Northeast Stadium Way and Nevada Street, and then went directly to Floyd Cannabis Shop where it was caught on camera, rather than the defense's claim that Bryan Kohberger left his apartment and drove to Wawaway Park, which would not have taken him by Nevada Street or Stadium Way. That is the choice that we are left with in this case. Now, when we look at the evidence that either supports Bryan Kohberger's story or supports the state's story, we find that the state's evidence doesn't match the reality of the situation. It actually matches the defense's story. And let's go ahead and prove that. In the state's final submission of their self-authentication of records, we now see that at Washington State University, video surveillance for November 13th, 2022 now consists of the state may rely on video footage from November 13th, 2022 from approximately 5:28 a.m. to 5:30 a.m., showing the suspect vehicle after the homicides in Pullman, Washington. Now they have absolutely dropped the video footage, not only from 2:44 and 2:53 earlier that night of the vehicle supposedly leaving out, but they even dropped the video footage from 5:27 of the vehicle coming back through Northeast Nevada Street and Stadium Way. The state has tried to eliminate the Stadium Way and Nevada Street camera footage entirely, proving that they knew that that was not Bryan Kohberger's car leaving at 2:44 and 2:53, and knowing it to the point to where they eliminated the footage of it returning at 5:27. If this isn't proof enough that the state's case is wrong and the defense's case is right, then we can look at other evidence that will prove that. So then we come to this, and this is the critical 7 minutes. The state alleges now that Bryan Kohberger left his apartment, and they don't even assume a route of travel. They just state he left his apartment at 2:45 a.m. as his cast data shows, and then somehow he ended up on camera at 3:02 a.m. right here at Floyd Cannabis Shop. They lied about the camera footage at Northeast Stadium Way in Pullman and is now all but admitted it by omitting it from their self-authenticating records. They have no camera footage at Bishop Boulevard, and they did not preserve the camera footage from Wendy.com or any of the other traffic cams in Moscow. The defense says that according to their cast data, Kohberger left his apartment and headed straight towards Wawa Park, where his phone stopped reporting to the network right here at 2:53 a.m. Now, based on what I just said, and the fact that the only thing that could prove this is advanced timing records, which the defense says the state is hiding and the state says they don't have. Considering the state has pulled this with these cameras, did not preserve this footage or any other footage that would prove their case, I am way more inclined to believe the defense that Kohberger went this way rather than this way, which now eliminates the footage of it being Kohberger's car on camera at Floyd Cannabis Shop. So what else do they have? The next time the state claims that suspect vehicle 1 is seen is on 3 cameras, starting at 3:26:10 on Indian Hills Drive, followed by 3:26:35 on Indian Hills Drive and 3:26:43 on Indian Hills Drive. It is then seen at 3:28:56 at 1311 South Main Street in Moscow. Now, all of these times are verified through the FBI's verification of times. And you can see when you get to Indian Hills, it says camera time is all accurate to local time. And then the 1311 South Main Street, camera time approximately 1 minute and 43 seconds behind local time. I'm going to let the great Mark B explain this and prove that it is not Bryan Kohberger's car on these cameras either.
Today we're going to take a look at the car traveling from Indian Hills to the Sunset Mart and Ridge Road area. So right here is 755 Indian Hills Road, and it's going to be traveling here right to A&W Restaurant right here. That's 3/4 of a mile from right here to right here. And then it's going to get caught on camera there and then come right here to this intersection. And right here is 1125 Ridge Road. So it's going to be caught right here as it's going this way and around the corner to Taylor Avenue and then King Road. So right here, here's the Sunset Mart. We're going to be basing all the runs off of this number here, 3:28:56 a.m. at Sunset Mart A&W gas station. Per FBI, 3:28:56, right there, is behind local time by 1 minute and 43 seconds. What that means to me is I would add 1 minute and 43 seconds to that, which comes to 3:30:39. But just in case there was a mistake, I subtracted 1 minute 43 seconds from 3:28:56 and came up with 3:27:13. Also, it's possible that the timestamp was 3:27:13 and the FBI corrected it to 3:28:56. So either way, all our bases are covered. So let's start right here at Indian Hills, 3:26:43 a.m. And let's look at the red 3:27:13. Time between both of those is 30 seconds. 3/4 of a mile, it would have to be doing 90 miles an hour. Now the other two, yes, it can do. So we're not going to worry about these two here, 20 and 12 miles an hour. Now we come here, 3:28:56 to 3:29:02, 1125 Ridge Road, which is 883 feet away. But at 3:28:56, the middle one, it's 6 seconds. See, 3:28:56, 3:29:02, that's only 6 seconds. To cover 883 feet, it would have to go 100 miles an hour. Then 3:30:39, that means this camera caught the car 1 minute and 37 seconds before the vehicle went through Sunset Mart. In other words, Sunset Mart, it goes through at 3:30:39, but this car already went through 1 minute and 37 seconds before. So no matter how you crunch the numbers, it can't work. 337 works here, but doesn't work here. 3:28:58 and 3:30:39 works here, but both of them don't work here. So those are the three ways it's impossible for the Indian Hills car to also be the Ridge Road car. Have a nice day.
It's now been proven that it wasn't Bryan Kohberger's car on every camera that law enforcement says is Kohberger's car, except for the camera footage that they identified the vehicle from on Ridge Road and the camera footage circling the King Road neighborhood, which we now know is this.
It's crazy. Just you can see why a tornado just rips them down. I mean, look at this. Oh yeah, okay. I mean, those are incredibly powerful machines. They weigh a lot. They use leverage and stuff. But at the scale machines, they weigh a lot. They use leverage and stuff. But it's
Yes, but what about that DNA on the knife sheath, Pavarotti?
Misapplied forensic science contributed to more than half of our wrongful conviction cases and nearly a quarter of all wrongful conviction cases since 1989. In these cases, forensic science practitioners provided misleading testimony that exaggerated the connection between the crime scene evidence and the person of interest, mischaracterized exculpatory results as inconclusive, or downplayed the limitations of the forensic science method they had used. On other occasions, practitioners have made mistakes when performing well-supported forensic methods in a laboratory, fabricated results in order to bolster the prosecution's case against an individual, or hidden exculpatory evidence.
So, in conclusion, I implore everyone out there to open their eyes to the truth in this case. and don't follow what you're told by the mainstream morons and the mainstream minions and any of the other mind-made-up guilters who have made their mind up on the wrong things. Look at the evidence yourself and determine for yourself what you truly believe. Thank you for watching another episode of the Innocence Project Bryan Kohberger. I'm your host, Pavarotti. Please like and subscribe to the channel. Post your comments, your thoughts, your criticisms. And until next time, have a wonderful Sunday evening. Pavarotti's out.